So I get asked a lot, when it comes to buying, aftermarket or used ATVs, what to look for. I get a lot of people that know what I do, and they know that I fix them and buy them and sell them. And a lot of people ask, I'm going to look at an ATV, what do I look for? So that's why I decided to make this video, just kind of go over the main things that you need to look for, when you're going to look at purchasing an ATV, whether it be for yourself or for one of your kids or somebody else, just to protect yourself so that what to look for and are educated when you get there, so that somebody doesn't try to take advantage of you, and doesn't try to hustle you or tell you something that's not true. I've seen and heard everything, and I've just learned to never take somebody's word for something, because somebody who needs money or somebody that's trying to sell something will literally tell you anything, and you really just can't take their word for it until you find out for yourself. So let's get into it. I'll go over a few of the key points that you need to look for. This way you know what to look for, and then you're well educated so that you can find the deal that's right for you. So let's go ahead and get into it, and let's check out this quad I just picked up. All right, so the ATV I'm going to be using today as an example is going to be this 2012 KFX 90. So initially, when I went and picked it up, the guy said that it needed a chain or a rear sprocket, which it needs a rear sprocket for sure. So I ordered a chain, a rear sprocket, and also the rear brakes didn't work. So all of that was true. Got there, and the bike would start, but then every time you gave it gas, it would just die out. So tried to start it up a few times, tried to get it to go, and it was just bogging out. So I knew just from experience that it's most likely a carburetor issue. So, but somebody else would think that there could be something else wrong with it, and could try to, it might deter you from buying the machine. So it really just comes down to your expertise and what you're able to accomplish and fix on the machine. So one of the key things you want to ask, when you go to see the machine, when you're negotiating, is, does it run? And if it does run, how well does it run? Does it just start up, and does it do like what this machine did? Does it start up and then bog? Does it run okay? Unfortunately, a lot of times you're going to get to the person's house, and on the ad it's going to say, yeah, it runs great, it fires right up, no problems. And then you get there, and same situation with me, it fires up, but it doesn't run right. So that's going to happen. That's normal. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does, a lot of the times it does, but that's all part of it. So the one thing you want to look at is just the overall condition of the bike. So are the plastics cracked? Are the tires worn out? You just got to look around the bike. You got to get underneath it. You want to check out the frame and see if it's spray painted, see if anybody tried to cover anything up, see if there's any frame damage or anything major like that. Checking out the alignment on the bike as well. If the handlebars are straight and the wheels aren't, it could be that it could have been crashed, especially these kid bikes. It's super common for them to be crashed. And then, you have to try to either buy new A-arms or, tie rods, try to straighten it out. It can be a nightmare. Most of the time it's an easy fix, but if you're not mechanically savvy, it can be a pain. But yeah, mainly you just want to walk around the bike, check it out, see how it looks, see if there's anything missing, anything that looks obviously broken. Some things won't be as obvious, like on this situation, the chain was popping when you gave it gas. So the sprocket is worn out, so I ordered the new sprocket. I ordered the new chain as well, just to be safe in case the chain was wore out. So I tried tightening the chain, tried lubing it up, and it's still popping, so that you can see that sprocket's pretty bad. So that the guy did tell me about that, which is fine, not a big deal. Also, the rear brakes don't work. This is, there's no pressure there, so I ordered a master cylinder. He told me that the master cylinder was leaking fluid. So, but the front brakes work great. They're operated by a cable, so that's good. So that's the main thing. Does it run? How does it run? Does it smoke? Do the brakes work? Are there any major issues? Those are the main things that you want to ask, and look for right when you first get there to look at the machine. Another key is that you want to feel the motor, when you get there to look at the bike, and see if it's warm. If it's warm, then more than likely it has a cold start issue. So What I mean by that is that they most likely started the bike before you got there, so that it was warmed up and looked like it started easy. But keep in mind that if it's cold, it might take a little bit longer to start, which sometimes isn't a big deal, but other times it could cause problems. Like maybe there's a specific way to start the machine, and you have to hold the choke all the way on and crank it for 30 seconds and hit the gas, and it could be a pain. It can make the machine not start unless you know how to actually start it. So that's important. So what you can do, the easiest way is just to, if you can't get to the motor, if you can just try to feel somewhere on the motor that would get hot, like on the front, just a light tap, or put your hand there first, make sure you don't burn yourself. Or if you can't do that, you could always go to the back and just tap the muffler, see if it had been if it's warm, then obviously it's been started. Or if you're able to get to like the header pipe on the front, this is the header pipe on this, so you can kind of touch, feel that, put your hand near it, and then touch it a little bit and see if it's warm. If it isn't, that's good. That means it's cold, and when you got there, it was a fresh, cold start. If it's warm, then, like I said, it could be a cold starting issue. Could be nothing. They could have just drove it out of their garage, but it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind would be, to ask, does the vehicle have a title, or a bill of sale, or a certificate of origin? So I'm in Florida, so typically vehicles like this come with a title. This one did. I actually purchased it from the original owner. It's 2012. I also got a bill of sale to show that I purchased the vehicle from the original owner. It's just good to have that, just to cover your own butt. And a certificate of origin would be like if I bought this bike here, but it was sold originally in Tennessee or Missouri or somewhere that doesn't do titles. They do certificates of origin. So the main thing you want to make sure is that the VIN that's on the bike, on the frame, matches the title. Because I've had plenty of times where, not plenty of times, but a few times where I've gotten titles for the bikes and the year and make was right, but the VIN was completely wrong. So you want to make sure of that. Really, if the last four match, typically it's a match, but I usually go through the whole VIN, make sure everything matches, make sure the VIN is not scraped off any. Typically that can be a sign of a bike that's stolen, so you don't want to buy a bike that has a scratched off VIN, or a VIN that has a number missing or is not legible or painted over or anything like that, because that can cause problems. Most of the time it means the bike's stolen, or they're trying to pass it off like the vehicle has a title, but you just can't read the VIN. It happens all the time, so you just want to be wary of that, and just double check that before you buy the bike. Check the oil. So I know already, checking this oil on this bike, that it's going to need an oil change soon. It's filled okay, right where it needs to be, but it's a little bit dark. So I'm going to be doing an oil change soon, but that's okay. The reason why, mainly obviously you want to check the oil, is for maintenance, to see if the maintenance has been kept up on. But a lot of times too, I've had people will drain the oil out of the bikes and sell them like that, or leave them with barely any oil in them because they smoke. And this happens a lot on the Honda bikes because they are known for having piston ring issues. The older Honda bikes, they're bulletproof, they run forever, but a lot of them smoke. So people will drain a lot of the oil out of the bike to make it not smoke, and then you go to do an oil change, you drain the old oil out, you put fresh oil in it, and then the bike starts to smoke blue smoke from the exhaust, and that would be a sign of typically piston rings going bad. So that's another reason why you need to check the oil, is to make sure that somebody didn't drain all the oil out or run next to no oil to keep it from smoking. So another good thing to do too is just to check the bushings in the front end, and also the carrier bearing in the rear. So the way you would do that, if you have a way of lifting the bike off the ground, like if they have a jack stand or a jack there, that would be a good idea. But if not, you can just simply shake the wheel back and forth, see if there's any play, and then also check the rear carrier bearing. You can just simply move this back and forth pretty hard, and then if there's no play, then you know that the axle bearings or the carrier bearings are good. If there's play in the front, it's most likely control arm bushings, but it could be ball joints, it could be tie rod play. Without actually jacking it up and seeing where the movement's coming from, it's kind of hard to tell. But these are all just things that you can use as negotiation tactics, and with whoever you're buying it from, you could say, hey, it's going to need a carrier bearing, it's going to need front ball joints, it's going to need control arm bushings, there's play in the steering stem, so all these things start to add up, and you can kind of use that as tools in your negotiation to try to get the price a little bit lower. And it's just smart to be able to do that, because then, you know, you can also know what you're getting into. So you also know that, hey, you know, I'm paying $500 for this bike, but, you know, am I going to be able to put $100, $200, $300, $300 into it to make it 100%? So you kind of have to weigh it out and see if the price that the person's asking for it is worth it compared to how much money you're going to have to put into it. So I paid, for this bike, it's 2012, original owner with the title. I paid $550 for it, which is a pretty good deal for a 90cc kids bike. But I knew I was going to have to put about $100 into it between the brake master cylinder, the chain, the rear sprocket, and an oil change. So I figured it'd be about $100, $150 into it. So I'm all in to the bike for about $700, which is fine. It's a solid bike. The plastics are in good shape. You can tell it's been taken care of. So at that point, I don't mind having to put that money into it. But let's say the person was asking, you know, $1,000 for this bike, and I get there and it doesn't run right, which it didn't. I had to clean the carburetor on it. It needs brakes. It needs the chain. It needs the sprocket. Now I'm in the bike for, you know, $1,200, and I could have got one that was pretty much ready to go turnkey at that point. So you kind of have to do your research, see what these are going for, see what the Blue Book value is, see what they're selling for on sites like Marketplace or Craigslist or OfferUp, and just kind of compare and see where the pricing should be, depending on how much work it's going to need. All right, so one of the last things I would say would be, you know, always to, you know, pop the seat and check out the battery, you know, check out everything under the seat and see, you know, how everything looks. This typically, you know, will kind of tell you the maintenance that's been done on it. You know, the battery, if the battery's newer, that's good. Left a little bolt under here. You know, everything kind of looks like it's in its place. Could be a little cleaner, but that's to be expected. It's under the seat, so it's not a huge deal. That's very important. So if you have something that's been wired all weird and you can tell somebody's been in there, that may cause electrical issues down the road. You don't really want to mess with a bike like that, because electrical problems can be a nightmare. I don't like to really deal with those. So last thing too, you could always check is just how much gas is in it, and also you can smell the gas. If it smells old, it could cause drivability problems, and if the bike is not running right, if it's got bad gas in it, that could definitely cause some issues. So that's just another thing that you that you want to check. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it for my video. I hope this helped you guys out. You know, I try to educate people on what to look for on different bikes and things like that, just so if you go to buy a bike for yourself or somebody else, you know, you don't get screwed over. You don't end up with a pile of crap that needs a whole bunch of work. And, you know, at least now, you know, it should give you a better idea of what to look for. But yeah, do your research. I'm sure there's a lot of things I didn't mention, and every bike is different too. So you wanna go on Google before you go look at the bike and see if any years had specific issues or problems. Certain bikes, you know, for certain years were great. Other years, you know, they're just piles of crap. So you just want to educate yourself as much as possible before you go and look at the machine. This way you know what you're getting yourself into. So thanks for watching the video. If you guys have any questions, you know, feel free to drop some comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.